What is up, all you stylish devils? It's your favorite devil hunter, Dead Toro here, picking up from where we left off in part 2. Now we're currently in part 3. Alright, bros and babes, let's rock! In this video, however, we will talk a little bit more about that aspect of the game as it progresses. The atmosphere in DMC started off eerie. It left a sense of curiosity and unease. That was how I truly felt when wandering the halls of the castle, not knowing when I would enter combat. Believe it or not, I was truly scared playing DMC as a child. I was 7, and I'm sorry that I keep mentioning that, but I feel it's important as a descriptor to how I felt. Even though it was a game and not real, I could not change my mindset in the middle of gameplay. I felt genuine fear, even though the game itself wasn't a horror title, it merely had horror elements. Those little bits of horror, i.e. style, like the castle along with the enemies and the spine-chilling music, and how it instantly accelerates from a low and spooky slow to a high-octane fast-acting action game so suddenly was enough to make me afraid. This, however, changes towards the later portions of the game. Now, as you get closer and closer to the heart of the castle, no pun intended, the music picks up to a steady, sharp sound that is clearly meant to set the tone of the world as a dangerous place. There is no more escape. You have been trapped and now you will die, is the best way to describe the sound in my mind. Let me tell you that the sound of the deeper portions of the castle is still visible in my mind's eye to this day because the fear it produced alongside the scenery of the castle was enough to give me nightmares as a child. To be fair, I had a vivid imagination and was always daydreaming. Honestly, I still do it to this day, only now it is in a maladaptive sense. I won't dive into that. Regardless, this game had made a lasting impact with its overall design and I couldn't be happier about it. I don't know who I'd be if I didn't encounter this game series. Though sometimes I am disappointed with myself and how I haven't done much with my life, I still think that this game series helped shape my person. That and my friendship with my co-op partner, Ba_Yo or Bayo, both in relation to and outside of DMC. I just felt like making a note of that. Devil May Cry was a game that I was legitimately afraid of, and yet I put my fears aside to see our hero through to the end of his journey. I can't say that I was brave. At the end of the day, it's a video game. There was no real harm to befall me, and yet I still can't say it wasn't, because I would have nightmares of death scissors. While playing, I could not help but look over my shoulder constantly. I even had trouble sleeping for quite some time during and after playing it to completion. So in that context, it took some level of bravery because I had to combat my own fears and paranoia to play the damn game. To be fair, I had a strong figure to look up to during the time that I was playing through the game. Dante was there every step of the way, styling on them demons. I may not have been fully aware, but looking back, it's probably the reason I even finished the damn game. Actually, I have always loved horror even though it always messes with my head. I remember playing Resident Evil and having similar feelings as DMC. The difference is when I got scared in Resident Evil, I just stopped playing the game for a while. While with DMC, I was hooked the first time my eyes and ears made contact. That addiction has existed 20 years later, and I even helped facilitate that addiction in another Devil Hunter, as previously mentioned. Not that the Blue Devil that I do co-op with didn't already have an interest before we hung out. Now that I've talked about this aspect of the game in relation to my life experience, I could go into detail about the levels and puzzles, but what you all really want to know about is the bosses and weapons. So one boss I didn't cover much of is Nightmare. The reason being is that there isn't much to say about the boss. I think it's a great boss in terms of overall appearance, and its moveset is unique as well, as far as being a boss in DMC1 may go, and maybe even other bosses as well. It's just that each fight is roughly the same regardless of whatever new attacks or sequences get added. You'll find that Nightmare has the same mechanics in each one. Hit the glyphs on the wall. He'll go from being a blob to his armored form, dodge till he shows his weak spot, and then attack until the phase is over, wash, rinse. It's that repetitious gameplay that just makes him less favorable than even Griffin, because Nightmare does not, as far as I can tell, give you any room to play outside of the mechanics. While Griffin, if you felt like it, you could get in close and fight or stay away and practice your movement reflexes. The option to do something different is what tends to attract me with a game or bosses within that game. It's one of the reasons I picked up DMC, because it reminded me of skateboarding. It's a skill that takes discipline and time to master, and once you do, you can showcase your skills in creative ways or artistic expression. So when I look back at Nightmare, I can't help but find it a bit lacking. As a child, I felt the boss was scary, but even then I knew based off feelings that the boss itself wasn't for me. I just didn't know how to put it into words until now. Aside from Nightmare, there's another boss that we have talked about, but needs more coverage than the one video. Nello Angelo. That's right, the real big bad we wanted to face all along. There are 3 fights with him, but we are just skipping to fight 3 because it's so pivotal. The first thing that I want to get out of the way is that the timing of the fight is off. Nello Angelo was built up to be such an antagonist outside of Mundus that the placement of when you fight him for a third time feels off. It takes place in Mission 17, an odd 5 missions away from the fated fight between Dante and the murder of his and Vergil's mother. I say this is odd because for those of you who don't already know, Nello Angelo is none other than Dante's twin brother, Vergil, being possessed by Mundus. The fight between them has the right lighting and atmosphere for a battle closer to the end of the game, especially since Nello Angelo was built up to be a type of rival, since he has a similar moveset. So when it is revealed that he is Dante's brother, the impact of their conflict becomes greater, whether under Mundus's control or not, which is why I feel that for the pacing of the story, it would have been a better fit to have that fight right before Mundus, to act as a sort of gatekeeper, if you will. The scene with Trish in the third Nightmare fight could still have happened the same way, and the story would have had a deeper impact with it organized in that order, even though it's a cliche order, I do admit. Other than that, though, the fight itself is phenomenal. The scenery is gorgeous, and the tones used are befitting a duel of devils. Nello in this fight is, in my mind, clearly losing control of Vergil. I say this since Vergil is able to reveal his face to Dante and is able to bust out his signature summon swords on occasion in this fight. He may not be able to rapid slash or judgment cut, but Vergil has shown through his use of Force Edge in the past that he is more than capable of keeping up with Dante and his great sword prowess. That being said, the third Nello fight has enough alterations to make it memorable. Nello has gained a bit of height, I believe, thus increasing his range. If I am correct, his face reveal impacts the story, though there is no dialogue for him. He has access to some of his signature moves we all love, like summon swords, a mix of punches and kicks and sword swings like his homing stinger, and the battlegrounds camera doesn't get in the way too much. The space that you fight in is quite small, also the pressure to avoid his attacks, especially since he gets larger, is much higher than in any other versions of the fight. All in all, the boss is 10 out of 10, even though I think he was paced poorly in the story in my opinion. I chalk that up to the dev team not fully knowing what they had or what they wanted DMC to be. It seems like putting Nello Angelo as a gatekeeper is an obvious move in hindsight, but try to develop a game with a low budget during that time period and see if you make the ideal game on your first go. DMC is a series that has been refined little by little over time, and I quite like that fact about the game. One more thing about the game, and the Nello Angelo fight before we move on, is that after you defeat Nello Angelo, you gain the granddaddy of all swords, one of the most beautiful swords, and still my favorite fantasy sword to this day, Sparta. Named after the legendary Dark Knight, the ultimate sword. It is a crescent moon blade with demon flesh bound to it. It is the superior form of the Force Edge, and it must be awakened through the use of the 2 amulets that Vergil and Dante were given by their mother. I have to say, the sword itself is only great at one point in time in this story. In any other circumstance, it does have a long range. I think they may have decided to make it not as powerful as when you're fighting Mundus, just because they wanted to keep the game balanced, but the thing is, it is a video game. And when I have access to certain moves only in one mission of the game, I do get a little frustrated. But other than that, the sword itself and its introduction is beautiful. It is breathtaking. It is the granddaddy of all swords and my favorite sword. I don't want to waste too much time on that, so back to the subject we were discussing, and that is bosses. And oh boy, was Mundus a good boss. Even to this day, I still remember how amazing it was fighting him for the first time. But before I get into it, I want to set the mood. To get to Mundus, you literally have to enter and traverse the underworld. The music tells you that you are bravely entering a dangerous place, and the environment looks like a living organism that is consuming you. Your time here is peril, and to spend longer than necessary here is to embrace death regardless of consent. There are a multitude of demons you have already faced clogging your path, meaning it is not an easy task to venture to your destination. And as you continue through hell, finding and disabling all the shields guarding the heart of the underworld, you arrive in this pristine, seemingly angelic room. Pipe organs grace your ears, as if to say that you are in the presence of something greater. Clearly an attempt to fool the ignorant, we the player, as well as Dante, knows that these sights and sounds are merely the deceptions of a false god. In truth, it is revealed to us by the actions of this devil masquerading around as a deity that they are no more than the lowest of demons. A might not built upon the strength of ideals and honor, but the unwilling sacrifice of others at the foot of their forsaken altar. And so the battle begins between the son of Sparta and the devil playing God who killed his mother. That is the best way to describe the feelings I had when reaching Mundus as a child. I could not put it into words till now, but looking back, I think I have an accurate understanding of my perception regarding this part of the game. Everything from Mission 1 to 22 had built up to this. All the fear, all the excitement, all the time invested, all the non-game related insecurities I had in my life, none of it mattered to me at that moment. I let myself go with one thought in mind: this dickhead needs to die. So I committed to the first phase as best I could, though the inverted controls made it hard to beat him. Luckily, Devil Trigger is your friend, and his patterns are not so bad that you can't dodge them with ease. Before anyone mentions it in the comments, I didn't realize the first time that I could use the D-pad to fly normally, so I did beat the first phase of the fight using inverted controls my first time. Not that it was a problem for a skilled gamer like myself. That's a joke. I was 7 years old. It's obvious that I had a hard time. I died a few times, actually. That being said, though, I managed to get through the first portion of the fight eventually, and was surprised to find that there was a second portion to the fight. This guy would just not die, and it was much better than the last, though the first phase was not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that the second phase was far more fitting regarding Mundus and his true nature, as we discussed. He stands in a pit of lava towering over you, and he is in no way godly or even angelic in appearance at this point. Now, with Mundus revealing his true colors, you are inclined to send some his way, in the form of Sparta's Devil Trigger. Normally, Sparta does not have DT, but during this fight you gain access to it. The attacks are the same as Alistair's moveset, more or less, but the range of the sword while in DT becomes incredibly long during this fight. And even if you didn't want to use the sword, Sparta's shoot ability while in DT is to throw these balls of energy at Mundus that do crazy damage. The fight, even with these tools, is not exactly an easy one for a child. An example would be the dragon that Mundus occasionally summons. If you time it right, you can slash the projectile it shoots back at it and gain back health. Another thing is that there is a move that Mundus does that does a lot of damage, where he spins these balls of light around him, and you can also send those back to him to do massive amounts of damage. These are all things that children are just not accustomed to. They're skill sets that are acquired by experienced gamers over time, but at that time I wasn't an experienced gamer. Luckily, the orbs with kanji on them give you DT if you destroy them. It isn't exactly obvious, but it's definitely easier to figure out than some of the other things in the fight. That being said, it's not so hard that you can't defeat Mundus. Once you succeed in defeating him, you'll find that now the castle is doomed, and so are you if you don't escape. So after saying a farewell to Trish's corpse and leaving your father's sword, the most powerful sword in that universe, in the underworld, you make your way out of the castle, being given an ample amount of time to do so. Along the way, enemies block your path, but you slay them and make your way out. It's a standard run-of-the-mill escape self-destruct scenario, only with a twist. Mundus isn't fully defeated. You must face him one more time. I have to point out that the choice of setting combined with how sludge-like and disgusting Mundus looks was a great design choice. Clearly they are fighting in the drainage of the castle, and Mundus looking like sewage, that goes really well here. It shows the player how the lowest of the low of demons truly is. So you take a sword to him one more time, and then Trish appears to give you the energy that you need to send him and seal him all the way back into the deepest parts of hell for one more time. And then, like magic, you find yourself saying,
It looks like we have a winner.
Jackpot.
that's right, you've beaten the game? Well, mostly. There is a flying section, but I have already taken up way too much time as it is. The reward for your hard work is a CG cutscene showing Mundus being sealed away, and then after that, a series of other cutscenes with Dante and Trish escaping the castle. I gotta say, I know it's cheesy, but this game moved me so much as a kid, I couldn't help but go into the closet and cry after beating it. Mostly because I wanted more DMC, but DMC2 didn't come out, and, I learned the hard way that was a disappointment, but I didn't know any better as a child, and DMC3 wasn't out, or 4 or 5. So, since it didn't exist yet, it gave me this wanting sort of feeling. Another reason being the endgame results screen music had this effect on me. Looking back, I think the feeling it imparted on me was no matter how bad things can be, you can go through hell and back. Deep down, there is an innocence to the world, and it's beautiful, even if we don't take the time to appreciate it as much as we should. I nearly cried when writing that line. That's how I know I am on the mark regarding my feelings towards the endgame music. This game series means a lot to me. I'm really glad that I finally am putting my experience and feeling about Devil May Cry down. Even if no one sees this, it doesn't matter. I had something that had to be said, and I said it. Thank you all for taking the time to watch, listen, and if you can relate to my experience involving this franchise, I just want to say personally to you, you rock, baby.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon for future notifications. Also follow DeadTuro and Bayo on Twitch to keep up with their co-op speedruns and other activities. Remember, you can always unsubscribe later if you find the content is not for you. If, however, you enjoy slaying demons, perhaps you'd be interested in joining Dead Toro's Discord DT community chat to talk with fellow demon slayers like yourself. And if you want to help these devil hunters continue on their quest to seal the demon world for good, become a patron, as doing so allows Toro to frequent Bayo's home for cooperative DMC speedruns and combos. Links to everything down below.